Welcome to Rise and Thrive Conversations for Greatness Season 2. This is episode 6, and it's all about resilience this season. We've had some awesome episodes. If you haven't heard episode 1 to 5, there is a treasure trove of tips, techniques, stories, things you can do, practical things you can apply in your own life or your own business to get the best out of yourself. I'd like to introduce good friend of mine and someone that is so inspirational and knowledgeable. His name's Matt Cordner. He's an esteemed expert in resilience and a seasoned political advisor. He's also a dedicated marketing professor. With his profound insights and strategic expertise, Matt empowers individuals and organizations to navigate challenges and achieve their highest potential. Get ready to be inspired by Matt's wisdom and experience. Hello, Matt. How are you going today?
I'm good, thanks, John. How are you?
Any better, I would be on fire.
Well, let me reciprocate by introducing your good self. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome John Merkus. He's the good-looking one. And he's also a leading expert in human performance and maximising life's potential. He's got 20 years of corporate experience in change management, and he's also a resilience specialist, which is handy, and dedicated to transforming lives and businesses through positive change and unwavering motivation. So I think it's time to rise and thrive with John Merkus. Welcome to John.
Excellent, Matt. It's so good to be here. I love it when we're together. Things are better with more people, if you know what I mean. I don't know. What am I trying to say? We're greater than the sum of our parts. There you go. That kind of
That's
thing.
it. I love it.
Now, instead of me rambling about how great we are, which is obvious, it's time for Kickstart the Week. This is segment 1. If you've been listening to the other shows, you know we break it down into segments, and this is always our first segment, Kickstart Your Week. Matt, would you like to kick us off?
Yeah, I'm happy to kickstart the week by kicking something. So, very quick story for you, John, and I know that this will be a story that will resonate with a lot of people. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where, in the world, I've come to understand there are two types of doctors. The first doctor will say to you, look, it's probably not anything to worry about, but we should get this checked out. And and the second doctor will say, yeah, well, there's a 50% chance it's cancer, so let's get it checked out.
Well, talk about a bedside manner, mate.
So I have the latter.
Right.
And I'm thinking of changing because a couple of months back I had what can only be described as a colonoscopy. And, because that's what it is, John. That's what
I don't
it
mean
is.
to laugh, but the thought about something going up the colon always makes me
Yes.
smile.
Yeah, well, it certainly didn't make me smile that day, but unfortunately I was
Clear?
asleep. I was asleep.
Right.
Yes, but what was interesting is that beforehand, and I know this happens to a lot of people, you start running through all the scenarios about, well, what do I do if I don't come out of this, or I don't wake up, or I don't. And I know it's a pretty dark thought, but it doesn't stop the brain, and we're going to talk about a lot of the ways the brain goes to negative stuff today, but it doesn't stop the brain from doing that. And fortunately, there was 5 for me polyps, which all benign, but I'm so pleased I did it. And afterwards, I thought to myself, had I put it off, which admittedly I had been doing, things could be different. And part of putting that off is not wanting to face all of the sorts of thoughts that I was going through while I was sitting there waiting to be wheeled into theatre. And I just wanted to sort of say to people that we've all been there. We will continue, as we know. One of the secrets of resilient people is that they expect that there will be other challenges in their lives, and they're ready for that. So I think for me, it's really important to make sure that when you do start to do that to yourself and think about negative thoughts, that you have ways in which you can click back and remember that things aren't always as bad as you expect them to be. And part of being resilient is being ready for that, but also being practical and grounded about not letting you get ahead of yourself too much.
Thanks. I really like that, Matt. And the other thing about, what to say, that resilient people expect that there'll be challenges. I really like that mindset because I heard that happiness is not the absence of challenges. It's about knowing that they'll come and knowing that you are capable of dealing with them, and you will get through. So they just reminded me, and I know we might have even said some of those words in previous episodes, but it's always good to hear those kind of messages to remind us. And, that's pretty serious stuff you're talking about. So, we're not just talking about stubbing your toe, we're talking about really serious stuff and how you deal with them in your life. And, I know a lot about you, but it's one thing I know about you, Matt, is you come out of things with a smile on your face, and you do expect that there'll be challenges, and off you go.
That's it. That's it. And as I've said to you many times, there's never a problem that can't have a solution.
Oh, yeah, more gold. It was a pretty awful visual, though, me thinking about you getting things shoved up there. But I'll deal with that in my
Well,
own
look, on the
time.
bright side, you could have been the doctor.
Again, always looking on the bright side, looking on the positive. I like that, mate. But I also know you've had to train yourself to do that, because it's not a natural thing for us human beings to look on the bright side. And I know we're going to get to that. My kickstart the week was, I was on a phone call having my superannuation reviewed. And it's
Okay.
also something that I've put off, right? And I was really clear on what I wanted to get out of the call, and the caller was wanting to take me in another direction. I found myself getting angry because I wasn't being heard. Now, the call went the way the call went, and the call ended, and off we went. But when I hung up from that call, I was still angry. And I noticed that, and I thought to myself, is this anger serving me? So I've learned to ask myself that question, and I wanted to share that with you and the audience because it is a powerful question. Is this anger serving me? So I was angry, and I was willing not to be. So I did some things to change my emotions. So I stood up, I went into the sunshine, went for a bit of a walk, ate something, played some guitar, and remembered all is well. Everything is working out for my highest good. Out of this situation, only good will come. I'm safe. And doing those things helped alleviate my anger and allowed me to continue with my day in the most empowered, positive way. And that works for me.
Yeah. And I like that a lot, John, because I think increasingly we live in a world where people are inclined to let those changes of mind be given to us from other people, whether that be from a psychologist or from a partner or even from medication, instead of actually taking responsibility for having some tools that allow yourself to be the person that makes that shift in your own mindset. So good on you for realizing that's your job and using some of the tools that we talk about to do it.
Thank you, mate, because that works for me, because then I make my life happen rather than life just happening to me.
Yeah. Love it.
And I hope we all got something out of that, both from your Kickstart the Week and mine. And so that was Kickstart the Week,
Excellent.
which means segment 2 is... Oh, yeah, we love that piano, and I'm talking over it. I'm sorry, everyone. It's Resilient Reboot.
Nice.
This week, Matt, negative bias.
I know, and it's so good that we had such great kickstarts, because we're walking straight into a human trait, or something that we all do, and that is that. I've heard this 100 times. If somebody tells you 20 great things and one bad thing, what's the one thing that you remember? And that's what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to give you some tools around how to train yourself out of that situation. We're not going to say don't get in that situation, because that's unrealistic. What we are going to say is that there are things that you can do that can help you fix that situation. So I guess the first place for us, John.
Can I just break in there for a sec, Matt?
Break in.
Can I just break in there, Matt? Because in my latest keynote speech, I talked about negativity bias, and I've been seeing it more often. Now, I don't know if it's because I've become more focused on that. I was always aware of it, but now I've become highly focused on it because I gave a talk on it, or not. But it seems to be coming up. So when we were talking about what the resilience reboot was going to be for this week, and I saw negativity bias, I got goosebumps. And one of the main things, I don't want to go too far ahead, but one of the main things that I explained in this talk that I gave apart from the fact that you said it's okay because we have it, because we're human beings, but the reason why we have it is evolutionary. Is that right? Yeah. If we didn't focus on the negative things, we might be dead. So it's one way of our brain trying to keep us alive. But in a
Correct.
social situation and in other situations, it's really good to be aware because they might not be life and death situations, and then we're focusing on the negative when we don't need to, and that may not empower us to where we want to go.
Absolutely, and it's a really important point that you make, and I think we need to sort of call out those things that take us into negative places, and whether it be a situation where you're talking to someone that you report to or someone that reports to you, focusing on that negative is quite common because of what you mentioned, John. That survival technique that as mammals we have, but we don't really need in the circumstances that we live in these days, fortunately. So to talk about this and to get knee deep into it, I want you to think about the ways in which we can separate that negativity into internal and external ways. So to think about the way in which we internalize or think negatively internally, we can do things like think about our weaknesses, our limitations, and you can be doing that when you're sitting writing out your resume and think about the things that you're not covering off and how you wish you'd done X, Y, and Z. You can think about all of the things that all of the negative events that you remember, memories of bad things that happened to you, whether they be recent or far in the past. You can concentrate on a scenario where something bad has gone wrong or a project that hasn't worked, all of those sorts of things. And you can often manufacture little signs, or last time that happened, things went wrong, or whenever a black cat walked across the path, I knew I was in trouble. All of these things that we invent for ourselves can really be holding us back. So there's some of the internal things. John, do you want to talk about some of the external negative things that can influence our life?
Yeah, well, there is a $1 billion-trillion industry built on it, and it's called the news and the media, isn't it? And so that's exactly why, if you've ever wondered why is the news full of what a friend of mine used to say is ambulance chases, which is people dying, fires happening, all this kind of stuff. It's because that plugs into our negativity bias, and which we're naturally programmed for. So other external things it could be negative comments online. I have experienced that myself because when you put yourself out there in the general public, there are some people there that might have some opinions and really want to give it hard to you, not realizing that you're a person with feelings as well, and you're just trying your best. And so I've had many positive comments, but I remember that negative one, just like you, just like you were saying. You could have deadlines at work that you need to be focusing on. And the other one, which is, I think it works, it just resonates, is the absence of something you wish you owned. In this day and age, isn't there always something that we want or we wish we could have or whatnot? But you can get really negative when you think about, oh, I wish I had this and I don't, rather than looking around and going, oh my God, look at all this wonderful life and things that I have. I don't know where I'm going with that, but I'll probably edit that out. But I just wanted to mention that too, Matt.
Yeah, no, I think I think that's really important because we do get caught up in a materialistic world, and sometimes you just need to say to yourself, "How is that going to help me? Is what I'm doing now or what I'm seeking now actually helping or hindering me?" And it's really important to make sure that, in some ways, I call it back ending, that you know what your goal is before you attempt. Don't laugh at that, John.
Sorry, I'm a 12-year-old boy in an adult body.
Yeah, I call it back ending because what you're doing is you're realizing what your goal is or what's going to happen at the end in your best guess uh, as a result of the action. So before you leapfrog and go headfirst into doing the actions, have a think about what you really want out of that and what the most likely conclusion from that is. And you know what? If in terms of what you say about social media, it's a big thing, and I always revert to Taylor Swift in these moments. And John, the haters are going to hate, and
They are.
I
Players are
think,
going to play.
so I think it's important to
We
do
just have
that.
to shake it off, mate. I left it open for you to shake it off.
You did.
Right.
I didn't want to steal it, but there you go.
No, you're absolutely right. And again, mate, the power in the question. Is this helping me
Absolutely.
or hindering me? That's a question you can ask yourself. And the power in those questions are phenomenal.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, listen, here comes the secret to all of this, and that
Mhm.
is that you described earlier about how you did a couple of activities that enabled you to change your mindset effectively, to go from negative to positive. And the key here I want to give people today is that you can't go straight from negative to positive. We know that it's really hard because you need to do a number of things in the middle, and we call these the neutral things. And it's really important to know and to remember that before you transition yourself from negativity to positivity, you have to live in the middle of that. And the middle of that is what we call the neutral things. And the technique or the tool we have for that we call an anchoring technique. So the anchoring technique is exactly what you spoke about earlier about doing, whether it be picking up a guitar, whether it be concentrating on your breathing, whether it be taking some time out alone, having a sit down, watching your favorite television show, whatever it is and ever long it takes. You will know that about yourself. But what I think is really important for us to tell you is that you need to have that neutral time before you can place expectations upon yourself to get to that positive. Otherwise, that positive place will be manufactured and it will be fake. So it's very important that we go through that neutral anchoring technique beforehand.
Yeah, I like that. It's a bit of a way to transition into that more positive focus rather than just flipping a switch. Because, and I also like how you said sometimes you take the amount of time that you need to do that. Depending on where you're at and what's happening with you and to you and around you, it could take 5 seconds. It could take 5 minutes. It could take longer, but you take as much time as you need or as you can to do that to be able to then transition. Love it.
And John, if it's taking 5 days, then I think you really need to do our course.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point. That's Resilience X available all the time.
All the time. In fact, it's happening now without us.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. So, as you probably might have gathered, listeners, Matt and I run this course, Resilience X, and we go through in deep a lot of the principles that we've talked about through the episodes, and you get to experience them as well. It's not just Matt and I talking to you. You really, it's experiential. I can never say that word. Hopefully, that I got it right on that occasion. But the results are absolutely outstanding.
Absolutely, and as we always say, John, it's developed by psychologists and delivered by experienced educators. So it's really important that you, and it's all backed by statistics as well. I forgot to mention that point. It's really important that you don't walk away from a session or uh, a a program like ours and forget it a week later. That actually, I've been in that situation, as we all have, with various different types of programs that we do over the years, and it's really quite annoying. But it's even more annoying for us if we haven't achieved our aim, if we haven't set you on a completely different path, and that's our aim. And feedback is that that's what we're achieving, so that's great.
And feedback is the breakfast of champions.
It is indeed. Hey, should we talk about moving into a positive focus?
I would like to. That turned into a really nice ad just organically, but we love to make a difference. So yeah, let's move into the positive focus.
Yeah. So look, as I've mentioned, you've done your anchoring technique. It's taken the time that it's needed, and now you're ready to bring in some positive thoughts. And how you do that's really important. But it's always about moving back. Always about taking what some people might call a helicopter position. So the scope in which we become angry can be very focused, and people often talk about, the argument might be about not closing the fridge door, but the reality is the argument's not really about that. It's about something much deeper, and it's about a communication issue. And the same in the process of anchoring yourself and getting your thoughts changed to more positive things. So it's really important to always, as the first steps, take. And if you even if you have to do what I'm doing now, which is sort of reel yourself back and take a helicopter view of the situation, that's the first stage in doing this. And then what you're able to do is then decide where that negativity is coming from. Is it internal, or is it external? And sometimes it might be a mixture of both, but usually one of those will come to the fore. And then it's about deliberately turning the focus, and this is a really key word for today, and turning your focus onto the things that are going to be more positive and actually create a solution. Because, heads up, John, no one's ever invented a solution to a problem from a negative standpoint. It's always been a positive standpoint.
What a great way to summarize and wrap up what we're talking about and give those practical tips as to how to go from the negative to the positive. I love that, Matt. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
That was Resilience Reboot.
Even that music just calms me.
Isn't that nice? I know the power in music. You've talked about that a lot. So we've done segment 2, Resilience Reboot, which must mean we're up to Toolbox time. That was Toolbox time. Now, Matt, you're going to have a chat, or we're going to have a chat about you and I, aren't we?
Yes. As if,
but not
as
about
if we
John
haven't
and
done that
Matt
already.
Yeah, not about John and Matt, about the communication parts of using the words you and I, right?
Correct. And this is a very simple tool, and it's one that you don't need to open a spreadsheet for. It is just simply reminding yourself that when you speak to people, that it's always great to change from the you, which can often be in accusory tone, to the I, and particularly about how you're feeling about a situation or what you would like to achieve. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting that this is a selfish act. It's not, I don't care about you, I don't care about me. It's about changing the way that you speak and communicate in this way. And I think the best way to do this, John, is to give an example. So, for example, instead of saying to someone, "Where is that work that I've been expecting from you?" I think you change it to something like, "I feel like I'm probably not supporting you enough here. What can I do to make sure we get that work done?" And again, another example might be that you might feel the need to say to somebody, "Look, are we going to meet this deadline, or are we actually not?" I'm sure you've either said that or felt like saying that on a number of occasions. And again, a similar change to I. So I like to get things done early, and smash deadlines might be something that you can say. And how can I help? So it is not about being selfish. It's simply about changing the focus onto what your expectations are without having an accusory tone.
Yeah, I can really see that. See, because what I found is that you statements are general, where I statements are specific. I've got a couple of examples. Mine are more in the personal realm than the business, but I think they can translate. Shall I?
I love it.
Okay, you love it. So imagine that as we say in Australia, the rubbish bin is overflowing. For our American friends, the trash is overflowing. Your partner was assigned to do this, and you could say, "You didn't clean up like you said you would, and you make me so upset." So, that's probably going to elicit a reaction. Or you could say, "I feel frustrated when the rubbish hasn't been taken out. I'd really appreciate it if you could take care of that." So just a subtle difference on saying that. I don't know if we'll keep that in. Doesn't really hit the mark, but anyway.
No, it's good, and I think maybe you could say we're living our best lives when the house is clean.
Oh, that's a lot better. Well, and you mentioned this, the you statements emphasize blame, where the I statements take responsibility. So,
yes, beautifully put. Thank you.
Yeah, the you statements focus on the problem, and the I statements offer a solution. And that's what I like about that. So,
Very, very good.
Yes. So what we're saying is,
So what we're saying is that it's really important to make sure that you're taking ownership and responsibility for the things that you are asking other people to get done for you, but at the same time you're offering help and you're offering solutions, and you're making sure that it's a team effort that we achieve together.
you can whack that in your toolbox, because that was toolbox time.
Nice.
Now, this next segment 4 in the show, is the mindful minute. So it's the mindful minute.
A minute of mindfulness.
That's a Jack Black. It's one of my favorites too. And this week, it's a mindful awareness exercise.
Yeah, so I really like this mindful awareness, because again, it's one of those ones that you can just have in your mind. You don't have to look it up or go back to a diary to remember what the exercise was. It's really simple. It's about touch. And there are lots of different ways in which you can build into a routine of smell and taste and touch. And this particular mindful minute is about touch. So, and again, it's to help you get into that neutral place when you feel that you're being too negative, before you move on to that positive place. So what I'd like you to do, and John, you can do this right now, is choose something in your home that you touch regularly. Now, it might be your computer. It might
I did say I'm a 12-year-old boy. Yeah, that's fine. All right. Let me go with the pen.
We're going to have to cut that out. We can't be that puerile.
Puerile. Oh, I like that word.
We just can't. We just lost 4,000 views. 4,000 people just dropped off. Mind you, we've still got another 12,000, so we're laughing.
I'm glad you asked, Matt. I've got a pen right here.
Excellent. And it can be as simple as a pen or a computer that you open every day, or even a door that you open. It's something that you touch regularly that allows you to have a thought, so that it's a muscle memory issue for your brain. So what I want you to do is to, whether or not you're in a negative position, every time you pick up that particular pen, or every time you flip open the top of your laptop, that you remind yourself of something that's positive. Now, that might be, gosh, I'm so lucky that I have a job, or how fantastic is that that this morning, every time I touch this pen, I'm reminded of the people in my family and my friends who love me. So it's very similar to, if you like, and we've spoken about this before, writing a gratitude journal where you're actually sitting down and spending an extended period of time. This is a trigger, as I said, muscle memory thing, where as soon as you touch that pen, or as soon as you open your computer, which is a great one to do because it's the start of the day for you, I suppose. Yeah. But it could be, it could also work with other things in the same way that, and we can talk about this, or we do talk about this in our course, things like sound. Music is very important, and you've spoken about that in resilience yourself and with your Rise and Thrive. And sound can be very important. Music is important. Taste reminds you of things. Smell reminds you of certain places or holidays or countries that you visited. All of those things are really important in going back to that. So what I want you to do for this mindful minute,
just before I do
something, I
want to say I love how that is so simple, and you don't necessarily have to remember something. Like you said, you associate something like opening your laptop, and I love that one because a lot of us have laptops, and that's how we start our day. And so as you open that, you've created some kind of positive message or reinforcement or some piece of gratitude. So whenever that happens, that happens. Now, funnily enough, I've started to do that with my house, because every time I go into my ensuite, I say to myself, I'm so glad and lucky that I've got an ensuite, because in my house before this, I didn't have one. And then I say to myself, gee, I love this house. So every time I go to the toilet, And I should say no. Every time I walk into that room, that's better because that's actually the case. Every time I walk into that room, I think to myself, I'm so glad I've got this ensuite, and what a great, beautiful house that I live in. And
Yeah.
because I'm doing that in the morning, it's the first time I go into there, it's setting me up. So I just love how things happen and it's synchronized with what we want to talk about on the show. And it's just how we're living our lives.
Beautiful, John. I love that example, and it's something we can do simply, all under less than a minute.
Oh, yeah, because that's the mindful minute. That's the criteria. That was a mindful minute.
Minute of mindfulness.
Touch of Jack Black. So that means we must be up to... It's motivational quote time. I don't know why I'm saying that with a really bad American accent. Apologies to anyone from our North American continent there. Let that not take away from the motivational quote. And it fits really well with our resilience metaphor from the course about, remember that from previous episodes where you're the captain of your ship and we talk about the ship, we talk about you being the captain, and we talk about the weather and all the things. So that metaphor really grounds in the teaching and makes it really relatable.
It does, John. And today's quote comes from Elizabeth Edwards, and we'll talk very briefly about who she is. But the quote is this: "She stood in the storm, and when the wind did not blow her away, she adjusted her sails." And as you mentioned, it feeds into what we've spoken about in the past and the metaphor that we use throughout our courses. But more importantly, it talks about the ways in which we're on a life's journey here, and it is about the journey, not necessarily the destination. And if you remember, we talked in our very first episode, we talked about the way in which people are always worried about the destination we've got to get to, and then they suddenly find that it keeps being further and further away, and you end up getting to very old age and thinking, I never actually made that destination, but gee, I've had some fun. and I think that's what it's all about, because as humans we do push out those destinations. But for this quote from Elizabeth Edwards, it is about adjusting those sails. And my goodness, if anyone had to, it was Elizabeth Edwards, because if you remember who she is, she was the wife of Senator John Edwards, who ran as a Democrat for president in 2004. And that's not what she's known for. It is I mentioned that because she had a terrible situation where Senator John Edwards had to drop out of the presidential race because he ended up having an affair and a child with another woman. But as a result, Elizabeth was a remarkable woman who wrote some amazing books that were well publicized, because she ended up also having a fight against cancer, which we referenced earlier today, as well as having a marriage crumble. And her books are bestsellers, and they're all about going through these difficult times. So we certainly reference Elizabeth Edwards, who unfortunately is no longer with us, but made an enormous contribution, and the contribution we're talking about today is this lovely quote from her.
And showed resilience in terms of dealing with what happens to you in the best way that you possibly can. So she stood in the storm, and when the wind did not blow her way, she adjusted her sails. There's definitely something in there for all of us.
And we have sails that can be adjusted. That's the point.
Love it.
Yeah.
Now we're up to the last segment of the show. It's the dad joke. I've got a few rapid fire ones for you today, Matt.
I love it. Bring it on. I'm ready for a good laugh.
What kind of underpants do lawyers wear?
What?
Briefs.
See, you've got to have done legal studies in year 11 at least to get that joke.
Well, I was just wondering too if that's we know them as briefs, but I don't know if all around the world they're known as briefs. But anyway,
good point.
The thing about it, when you try and explain or analyse a dad joke too much, it just loses its whole appeal.
It's just not funny anymore.
What do you call it when a cow grows facial hair?
Ooh, what?
A moustache. And did you hear about the two rowboats that got into an argument?
No.
It was an ordeal. was.
I think we just lost another 2,000 viewers, but don't worry, we've still got 10,000 more.
Nice one, Matt. It's always an absolute pleasure to get together. This is certainly lifting me up every time we do, and I really hope that it is for our listeners. And I just want to thank you for being you.
Well, John, unfortunately, I can't be anyone else.
And remember, resilient people
always go to the doctor, who has a much better bedside manner, I find.
And have mothers.
You like that one? Do you want me to just do that every single time?
Well, I like how you added something that was related to the show as well. Yeah, so I don't mind. I don't mind, but I'll probably always come back with and have mothers as well if you haven't said it, because
whenever I do my writing course, I always tell people you've got to make sure that you set it up so that there are things in the first chapter that you always refer to in the last chapter, and people just love the cleverness of that.
I love that. It closes the open loop as well. Just before we go.
Yes.
Very dramatic.
Excellent.
Just wanted you to hear that. That's it.
It's like I saw something. I saw a football show last night. They were talking about that player, Musselman. I can't remember his last name, and the other guy on the panel said, "Oh, I wish you wouldn't talk about him. It always makes me feel like a curry."
That's the first thing I thought of when you said it. So until next time, listeners, rise and thrive, be resilient, whatever else we said, and I'll cut all that out and see you later.
You're going to have to cut that out.
I'm just going to hit stop. It will stay on the line.